was 2:47 a.m. when Emily woke up again. The same sound, that soft, hollow tapping from beneath her floorboards. Slow, almost rhythmic, as if the house itself had a heartbeat. For weeks she had tried to ignore it. Told herself it was the pipes, the wind, or maybe the cat that used to live there before she moved in. But tonight the sound was different. It wasn't random anymore. It was deliberate. 3 knocks, a pause, then 2 more, like a message. She sat up, heart pounding, the faint glow of the moon falling across her room. The old farmhouse around her creaked like a whispering ghost. "Who's there?" she whispered, though she knew no one would answer. The knocks came again. 3. Pause. 2. Her throat went dry. Something deep inside her told her this night was going to change everything. She grabbed her phone, turned on the flashlight, and stepped out into the hallway. The air was heavy, almost wet, as though the walls were holding their breath. The sound led her toward the basement door, a place she hadn't visited since the day she moved in. The realtor had called it unfinished, but the way she said it had made Emily's stomach twist. She slowly pulled the door open. Cold air rushed past her, carrying the faint scent of dust, old wood, and something else. Something sweet, like faded perfume. Her fingers trembled as she clicked the flashlight on. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing narrow steps descending into shadows. Each step creaked beneath her bare feet. The sound grew louder now. Not knocks anymore, but a faint humming. A woman's voice, soft and sorrowful, coming from below. Emily froze. Her breath caught in her throat.
"Hello?"
She called, her voice trembling. No answer. Just that melody, sad and haunting like a lullaby for the forgotten. When she reached the bottom, her light swept across the walls. Old shelves, broken furniture, cobwebs, and then something strange. A line in the wall. A faint outline. It looked like a door, but there was no handle, no hinges, nothing to show it could open. The humming stopped. The basement went silent. Emily's heart hammered in her chest. She took a step closer. Her fingers brushed against the outline, and suddenly a piece of the wall shifted. Dust fell. The door creaked inward. Behind it, there was darkness deeper than night. Emily raised her flashlight and gasped. Inside was a small hidden room. The air was cold, still, heavy with time. In the center sat a chair, a small wooden table, and on it, a dusty old diary. The pages were yellow, the leather cracked. Emily hesitated, then picked it up. The first page read, June 4th, 1942. My name is Emma. Emily whispered the name aloud, Emma, and for a moment, the room seemed to sigh. The faint smell of perfume returned. The same scent she had noticed earlier. She turned another page. He promised he'd come back before the storm. I waited by the door, but he never did. Emily felt a shiver crawl up her spine. The handwriting was elegant but shaky, as if written by trembling hands. She kept reading, drawn deeper and deeper. They told me to leave, said the house wasn't safe. But how could I? This is where we loved, where we dreamed. I can't leave until he returns. Emily swallowed hard. The story in the diary was tragic. A woman waiting for someone who never came home. Each entry felt more desperate than the last. And then on the final page, the words were smudged as if written through tears. If you find this, please forgive me. I couldn't wait any longer. The door knows. The door knows. Emily felt the blood drain from her face. Suddenly, she heard it again. 3 knocks, pause, 2. But this time, they came from behind her. She turned slowly. The door she had entered through was now closed. Her flashlight flickered, and then she saw it, faint. On the far wall in a shadow, a woman's silhouette. Still watching, her heart stopped. Emma, she whispered. The air grew colder, and then, faintly, from the dark, came a voice, trembling and fragile. You found the door. Emily stumbled backward, the diary falling from her hands. When it hit the floor, the door behind her creaked open again. Cold wind rushed in, whispering her name. She ran, up the stairs through the hallway, not daring to look back until she slammed the basement door shut. She stood there shaking, her breath fast and shallow. The night was silent again, except for one thing. When she looked down, her phone screen had turned on by itself. A message glowed across it. "Emma wants you to finish her story." Emily froze. The screen flickered and went black. When Emily woke the next morning, sunlight was pouring through the curtains, warm, golden, and unreal. For a moment, she wondered if it had all been a dream. The knocking. The hidden door. The voice whispering her name. But when she looked down at her bedside table, her stomach twisted. The diary was lying there, covered in dust. The same cracked leather. The same name on the first page. Emma. She hadn't brought it upstairs. Her hands shook as she opened it again. The pages were filled with words that looked like they had been waiting for someone to read them. The ink had faded, but the emotion hadn't. Every word still breathed pain. She turned to a page she hadn't seen before, one that seemed to appear overnight. The handwriting was fresh. "If you are reading this, then you heard me." Emily froze, her breath caught in her throat. "Please don't be afraid. I never meant to scare you. I just needed someone to know the truth before I fade completely." The words blurred in her vision. Her chest tightened, she whispered, "Emma, what happened to you?" The air around her grew colder. The smell of old perfume filled the room again. She flipped the page. The next entry was dated December 18, 1942. "He left for the war. He said he'd write. I waited by the window every morning. The snow kept falling and I kept waiting." Emily could almost see it. A young woman, sitting by the window of the same house, her hands wrapped around a teacup gone cold. Watching the road through the falling snow, she kept reading. The radio said the ship never came back. They told me to accept it, that he was gone. But I couldn't. I felt him near him. Every night I heard him knocking. Just like before. Emily's hands trembled. The same knocking pattern. 3, pause, 2. Her heart thudded. It wasn't random. It wasn't the house. It was him. The one Emma had waited for. And maybe, after all these years, she still was. That evening, Emily couldn't sit still. The diary had awakened something inside her. Sadness, curiosity, and something deeper. She felt drawn to the basement again, like an invisible thread was pulling her back. When she reached the door, the air felt thick, almost electric. Her fingers hesitated on the handle. She whispered softly, "Emma, I'm here." The house seemed to breathe. The door creaked open by itself. Down in the basement, everything looked the same, except the hidden door was already open. A single candle flickered inside the room, though she didn't remember lighting it. The diary lay on the table again, open to a new page. Emily stepped closer. This time, the writing was different, jagged, desperate. "They told me to leave the house. They said it wasn't safe. But I can't. I promised him I'd wait right here. If you open the door, please understand. Love is the only thing that kept me." Tears welled in Emily's eyes. She could feel the ache in every word. The loneliness, the heartbreak. She whispered, "Emma, you don't have to wait anymore." The candle flame flickered and then she heard it again, that soft trembling voice coming from behind her. "He never came back. But I still hear him. Every night. Knocking." Emily turned slowly. In the corner of the room stood a faint figure, a woman in a faded blue dress, her hair pinned up, eyes gentle but full of sorrow. Emma. The ghost didn't look frightening. She looked tired. Emily's voice shook. "You've been waiting here all this time?" Emma nodded slowly, her voice breaking like wind through glass. "He promised. He said he'd find me. But the storm took him. And I stayed. I stayed because love doesn't know how to leave." A tear rolled down Emily's cheek. "You're still here because your story isn't finished," she whispered. Emma looked toward the diary. "Then finish it for me." Before Emily could speak, the ghost's form began to fade. The air shimmered. The candle dimmed, and the room fell silent. The only thing left was the diary, open to one last line. It read, "When the door opens again, I'll finally be free." Emily stood in that silence for what felt like hours. She could still feel Emma's presence. Soft, sorrowful, lingering. She gently closed the diary, pressing her hand over the name. "I'll help you, Emma," she whispered. "I promise." As she turned to leave, she glanced one last time at the hidden door, and for just a second she saw two shadows on the wall, hers and one beside her, smiling. That night the wind howled outside like the world was trying to tell her something. Emily sat by the kitchen table, the diary open in front of her. The words on its pages had become more than just ink. They were alive, whispering through every corner of the old house. She traced Emma's last sentence with her finger. "When the door opens again, I'll finally be free. Free." The word echoed in her mind like a prayer. She knew what she had to do. She had to go back. One last time. The clock struck midnight as she walked toward the basement. Every step she took echoed through the silent house. The air felt colder than before, yet calmer somehow, like the house itself was waiting for her. When she reached the basement door, she hesitated, her hand trembling on the knob. "Emma," she whispered softly, "if you're here, I'm not afraid anymore." The door creaked open. The smell of old wood and faint perfume drifted out again. The candle was still burning inside the hidden room, steady, unmoving, as if it had been waiting just for her. Emily stepped inside. The diary was on the table again, open to a blank page this time. Next to it, an old locket lay in the dust. She picked it up carefully. Inside was a tiny photograph, a young woman in a blue dress, smiling beside a man in a military uniform. Emma, and the man she loved. Emily's throat tightened. "You never stopped waiting for him, did you?" she whispered. The candle flickered as if in reply. She sat down, took a pen from her pocket, and looked at the empty page. "Okay, Emma, let's finish your story." Her hands began to move. She didn't know how or why, but the words flowed like they were being guided by something unseen. He never returned from the sea, but his promise stayed with her. Every knock, every whisper, every breath of the wind carried his love. And when the door opened once more, it wasn't to trap her, it was to let her go. Tears blurred Emily's eyes as she wrote, "Love doesn't end with death. It lingers in the spaces between heartbeats, in the silence between knocks. It waits, not to haunt, but to remind." When she finished the sentence, the candle's flame burned brighter. The air around her shimmered softly, and then she heard it. The faint sound of footsteps behind her. She turned slowly. Emma stood there again, clear this time, her face glowing softly, her eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. "Thank you," Emma whispered, her voice like wind through the trees. Emily couldn't speak. She just nodded, her heart aching and full at the same time. Emma looked toward the wall, where the hidden door had once been. "He's waiting for me now," she said softly. "I can finally go." The air trembled, a soft knock echoed. 3, pause, 2, and then the light around Emma grew brighter until Emily had to close her eyes. When she opened them again, the room was empty. The candle had gone out. The diary lay closed on the table, the leather no longer cracked, but smooth and warm as if newly bound. On the cover, in faint golden letters, were new words. "Thank you, Emily." Emily walked upstairs, tears still wet on her cheeks. The house felt different now, lighter, peaceful. Outside, the storm had passed. The sky was clear, stars spread across it like tiny promises. She sat by the window, holding the locket, and whispered, "You're free now, Emma." A soft breeze brushed her face, warm and gentle, and for just a moment, she thought she heard that same melody again, the lullaby from that first night. But this time, it wasn't sad, it was calm, beautiful, peaceful. Weeks passed, Emily stayed in the house, but the basement never made another sound. No knocking, no whispers, only silence, the kind that feels like rest. She began writing a book, using Emma's diary as her guide. She called it The Door That Waited. It wasn't just a story of ghosts, it was a story of love, of waiting, of promises that outlast even death. The book became her way of giving Emma the ending she never got. One quiet evening, months later, Emily uploaded her final chapter to her new storytelling channel. Her voice trembled with emotion as she said, "Some doors are meant to stay closed, but some inks open to heal what time forgot. If this story touched your heart, subscribe. And remember, love always finds its way home. She smiled softly into the camera, and just as she pressed stop, she heard it again. 3 knocks, pause. 2. But this time, she smiled, because she knew. It wasn't a haunting anymore. It was a goodbye. The end.